Alabama wins 42-28. Jalen Milroe, 374 yards and 4 touchdowns. I thought Jaden Daniels on the other side looked incredible too until he got hit late. And, combined total yards, 756, 7 total touchdowns, 1 turnover. I think Jalen Milroe's 4 rushing touchdowns is the first time that any Alabama quarterback in the history of the program has rushed for 4 touchdowns in one game, which I find kind of crazy to believe. You would think that at some point somebody would have done that, but unfortunately for you,
fleet-footed AJ McCarron probably did that.
Yeah, I don't know, Blake Sims or somebody. But I'm putting you on notice, and I'm putting everybody on notice. And if you think that we only talk about blue blood programs, then just gonna have to deal with it for the next 5 minutes until we get into all the other ones. We're going to talk about the group of 5. We're going to talk about all sorts of different things right now. But first, my wife just turned on the television so loud it lost my train of conversation. Did you hear that?
I did. It's okay, Ari.
It's kind of got me off my game here, but I'm putting you on notice, and I'm putting everybody on notice. We are not going to be getting through the college football playoff discourse without Alabama a part of it now. I mean, they're firmly back in it, and I hate to admit it, but are they good enough to win the national title this year?
I mean, here's the thing, Ari. The short answer to your question is yes. We always have this conversation.
I know.
We have this conversation. We're talking about the most talented team in America. So, yeah, they're good enough to win the championship. Now, are they good enough to get through, Oregon and Georgia and Florida State and Michigan? I don't know. But, we've struggled all year to talk about this because Alabama is so tough to talk about because you watch them before the season. And I think all the things we thought have been mostly true and that they kind of have a dearth of weapons offensively. The offensive line really struggles to pass block. Their pressure rate, I think they're 119th nationally. I'd have to check where it is now, but they're outside the top 100 in protecting Jalen Milroe from being under pressure. All those things have been true. It's not like they've had all these weapons come out of nowhere, but the defense is very good. They've leaned into Milroe. They know how to use him very, very well, know what he's good at, and I think he's improving a little bit too. So Alabama is a complicated situation, but sorry. I think the most talented team in America is good enough to win the national championship.
Well, if you would have, here's the thing. Since Alabama began the season with the quarterback dysfunction, and after losing to Texas, we have talked about them very little. We glance about it a little bit. Okay, hey, they beat this team or they beat that team. Are they going to make it to Atlanta? It's been passing discussion, but now, maybe even starting on Tuesday, I don't know what the rankings are going to look like, but Alabama is definitely a main fixture in that discussion in a world where there's a lot of people and a lot of teams that are vying for that discussion point. So I think that they need to come back to front row center. The light is on them, all those things. And the thing that I'll say about Alabama, their defense is very good. They're fast. They hit hard. All those things that we know about the most talented team in America. And I don't know how much of this was LSU's D, but Jalen Milroe actually looks like he's just found himself. And they're using him in a way where they can let him, run and use his legs and be an athlete. And, he makes some throws that are pretty incredible at times, but, the offense is really working well when he just gets out and breaks contain and kind of can do his thing. So I don't know if that's going to be good enough to beat a team like, Georgia in the SEC championship game. I don't know if it's good enough to win 3 games in a row against very good teams, but what I do know is if you ask Kirby Smart who the last team in the conference that he wants to play is, it's Alabama, and it's the team that they're going to have to play. And last week I came and I was sitting in a hotel much like you are right now after a Georgia game, and I was very convinced that, that team is the cream of the crop and is going to win the national championship. But if you put the Georgia team that we watched on television today, which we'll get to, against this Alabama team in Atlanta in a dome, I'm not 100% certain that Georgia would win that game. And then at that point, you're putting Alabama up against Washington or, Florida State or another one of these teams that just is not equipped athletically to compete with them. So, it's going to be a very interesting scenario. I don't know if there's a scenario out here that after this long winding road of parity in the sport and all these crazy teams that are new onto the scene and exciting and sexy, that Alabama doesn't beat Georgia and both get in. Who knows?
Well, that's the thing, Ari. I don't think I think it's important to note that Alabama to get in the playoff is obviously going to have to beat Georgia. To win it all, I would say decent shot. You got to beat Georgia twice.
Beat Georgia twice, or beat Georgia twice, or beat Georgia once, then beat Ohio State or Michigan once, and then beat Florida State or Washington or Oregon or one of these other teams.
Ari, a week ago, you're telling me we're about to hand Georgia the trophy, and now we don't even.
I mean, I still think that I still think that. Well, here's the thing that changed. It's not that Georgia changed; it's that we added another team built like Georgia into the equation that we weren't considering last week.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, I still think that Georgia is the team. But if it's not the team and Alabama is, then it's still the same thought process, you know? Now, I don't know how to break down Ohio State, who's the third team that's built that way. I've been kind of cold on them this year, and, they didn't really knock my socks off against Rutgers on Saturday. But, there are a lot of teams that are still in the mix, but you just let another wolf into the hen house. They're back, and it's how we break them down and how the committee breaks them down is going to be a fascinating discussion. And throughout the rest of the course of November and into maybe December, when the championship games are being played, Alabama is going to be a fixture in that conversation, and I think they earned that.